Does every entrepreneur need a stroke moment?
Yeah, literally most of them are hit with something. It's car accident, someone dying, cancer. Like there's always that moment, kind of going back into what we've been talking about systematically, like kind of the matrix. It's like an awakening moment. Like once you wake up, you're never going to go back to sleep. And so for me, like who I am right now, I am so grateful, not only for my wife encouraging me, but that stroke had to happen. It happened early enough too, which is a beautiful blessing in disguise. Yeah, I was in my 30s. Like now I still have time to do what I was designed and developed to do in the first place. I was going down the wrong path.
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast, you guys. I have a new friend in the room here, whether you are watching on YouTube, whether you are listening to this on the actual podcast feed, you may want to just jump over onto YouTube. I got to be really honest because he's got some dynamite about him. He's got some incredible storytelling abilities. This is my new friend, S.A. Grant. Can everybody say hello? Hello. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hey, well, I definitely appreciate you inviting me. I think this kind of goes into being like-minded and attracting the right people all the time. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here. I'm looking forward to helping your audience with some insight. And hopefully, I always say when I give insight, I want them to take action and use it. Just don't listen and sit down and be like, oh, that was great, and put it in your back pocket.
And it certainly will feel good to hear things that are true or helpful, but like, how does that actually alter your life, right? Is a lot of the discussion of what we're going to be having. So let me give you a little bit of a background on how I met him and why I felt like this was a must-have on the podcast. Like after spending like less than 10 minutes with him on a little meeting on Zoom, I was like, he has got to come on for a variety of reasons. So we both have a joint friend, right? A friend that we both share in common. And I went to a live event and he actually was attending virtually, right? And so we both attended this event and then we kind of connected after and started going back and forth. But the thing that first caught my attention about you was actually the name of your company, right? The name of your podcast, which is called Boss Uncaged. Okay, so you can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on pretty much every platform. You can also go to bossuncaged.com. But something that I loved about the idea of Boss Uncaged is it fights against the norm, right? You picture a boss, and bosses have a bad rap. Let's just put it out there. There's a million jokes and comics about it, right? But when I think of Boss Uncaged, what it says to me is that we are talking about how can you be a leader that can just absolutely explode their influence in their sphere. And that's really what initially caught my attention. And then I got to meet with you one-on-one, and I was so intrigued by your story of how you got into this space of helping entrepreneurs really uncage their soul, right? In a very real, tangible way. So I know your story. My audience doesn't know your story. Would you be willing to kind of set the background for how Boss Uncaged came to be?
Yeah. So this is a question that I like to ask. Do you want the extended version or the abbreviated version? Which one do you want me to swing with?
Well, because of what I know you can offer my audience, if we can do an abbreviated version, we can then help them apply what you did in your life into theirs as well. So let's dig in.
Okay. So I start this conversation off with, I started my first degree as a graphic designer. Then my second degree was a web designer. All of this came way of me being a native New Yorker, and my parents kidnapped me, kicking and screaming, and dragged me to Atlanta, Georgia. And I graduated from high school. Then I did my first year in college, and I started to kind of find my rhythm and blues. And that's when I started my first business. It was literally back in early 2000 when I started my first business. And then I went on this journey to like, okay, graphic design is great, but what do I do with it? Web design multimedia is great. what do I do with it? And then I started thinking about, okay, well, let me figure out business. So then I started jumping into multiple different business disciplines and wearing multiple different hats, and became an insurance agent. I got my Series 6. I became a travel agent. I did all these different things at the same time I was running my agency as well, because I was like, okay, I'm going to build this empire. I'm going to build this metropolis. And then as time went on, I became a full-time dad. I became a full-time single dad. And then I became a full-time single dad that had primary custody of his son. And I was doing all these different things and raising a kid at the same time. And so, unfortunately, if you fast forward several years or so, I ended up working myself literally to the point to where I almost died. I had a stroke. Literally, I woke up in the hospital. I had a stent in my head, a hole in my leg, and I was like, what happened?
And how old were you at this time? I mean, is that appropriate to ask?
Yeah. I was mid to late 30s. It's like 37, 38.
So young. So young.
Yeah. Unfortunately, partly genetic, partly stress, partly, obviously kind of going into what we're leading down the road with the whole Boss Uncaged. Everyone that's in an environment, whether you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur or you're like a freelancer, you have an element of wanting to become a boss. And so this was way before Boss Uncaged even came to existence. But, post stroke, my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife right now, we sat down. She was like, well, now is an opportunity for you to do something different. It's time for you to step in front of the curtain. You've always been the guy that's always been kind of like the puppeteer behind the scenes, helping people grow their brands and everything else. Why don't you then do what you do for everyone else? And I looked at her and I was like, well, first of all, I'm going to marry you, right? And then second of all,
best answer ever. I love it.
And then second of all, I was like, okay, what is this going to be? What is this environment? Like, what am I going to market? Not even what am I going to sell? Like, what is this going to look like as far as a legacy? And then I started jumping around and started looking at different disciplines, looking at online solutions. And then I was like, you know what? I'm either going to become a YouTuber or a podcaster. Now, I'm talking fluently right now, but if you go back, several years, becoming a YouTuber wasn't my thing. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to speak in front of a microphone. I didn't think I had like the pizzazz for that, right? And then if you fast forward now, I became a podcaster. I became a YouTuber. I started speaking on stages, and all these things came post-stroke. Because before stroke, I didn't do any of those things. I wasn't even an author until that moment. So I've authored 10 books and I've spoken on stages. I've created courses. I did all these different things literally within a 5-year span because of a stroke. And that stroke kind of changed my vision of what I was doing and why I was doing it.
Well, I've got a follow-up question about that, because I see some parallels as far as before your stroke. I hope that's appropriate. I can say it that way, kind of before your stroke and your life after your stroke. Is you were very diverse in the ways of which you were trying to find your pathway forward. Like you said, before your stroke, you were like, I'm a travel agent. I'm doing graphic design, and I'm getting these certifications, and I'm doing all these things, which can feel very much, scattered or something like that. But even on the other end of it, after your stroke, you still were looking for, what is my path? What is my path? Could it be YouTube? Is it still in design? Is it an agency? Is it those kinds of things? What was the difference between sort of the focus of trying to find your way before your stroke versus how you found your way after it? Because you were trying so many different things.
Yeah, I was trying so many different things because I was thinking about building an enterprise level, right? And I was like, okay, well, we have teams and they're going to be traveling. It only makes sense to understand travel, right? If we're going to have teams and we're talking about, funding accounts, we need to understand the market. So my brain was diversified with the common goal of achieving the enterprise. But then going into what I'm doing right now, it was more so started with brand. And I took my wife's words, like literally, you've been branding everyone for so long. Why don't you brand yourself? And then I had a company before, but I was looking at the company more so, and the company name was Cerebral, right? Spelled with an S. So just by saying that from a brand standpoint, if I was my client, I would have told them, rip it up and throw that shit out the window, because it's like, who knows how to spell cerebral correctly, right? And then I'm spelling it with an S. So then by default, like the syllables and the phonetic style of it just wasn't right. And the comprehension of it wasn't right. So boss is it's a 4-letter word. A 5-year-old can spell it. Right? Phonetically, you could sound it out. Uncaged is a little bit more difficult, but if you were to combine those letters, they're as long as a phone number. That's the other thing as well. I wanted to make sure that it was less than the digits of a phone number, so that way in memory, someone could visually memorize it as well. So I started branding myself with the elements that I've always branded everyone else. and I went through variables of names, and then I came up with Boss, and I came up with Uncaged, and I was just like, that's it. Like those two words together will facilitate exactly what we want to achieve.
Incredible. And one of the other real benefits to the brand you've created that shows how good you are at what you do is Uncaged can mean so many different things to so many different people. And yet it's all unified in maybe a vision of becoming your best self or having your impact or whatever. But people may feel caged in their health or in their faith or in their revenue or in their whatever. Like, have you found a lot of unity in the people you've been able to gather under that brand when they hear the word Uncaged?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, even if you look at the iconography of the logo with the 4 arrows and a circle on top, some people will see arrows. Some people will see an actual star. Some people will see an actual person. And I always tell them that everything that you see is 100% correct to you. The logo was designed based upon those principles. It was kind of like, well, we can come from all different directions, but it all comes back into the individual. Like, you're the individual boss, you're the leader, and then you're going to have to help other people do the same things with them, and you gather. So it's circles on top of circles, and just understanding that from that point of view, then the brand makes perfect sense. But I usually don't explain it like that. I let other people explain it to me, and then I listen to them, and then I say, okay, yes, that's what it means, or dial in a little bit. It means a little bit more in this direction.
And let me steal your word, dialed in, right there. So you started Boss Uncaged. You married her, right? That was like the number one step you had to take. And I want to sit on that for a minute because I love that so much. So you married her, and then you build bossuncaged.com. And how have you dialed it in over the past couple of years? I know you've had a lot of life changes, right? Including why we almost couldn't meet today. Let's talk about power outages for a minute. But like, you've had some changes here. What have you really dialed in as far as this is my message and this is who it is for?
Yeah. So being with the changes you're talking about, so those that know me know what the changes are. Those that are now meeting me, I went from New York. Well, first of all, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I grew up in New York. And then, my older years were in Atlanta, Georgia. And now my family and we're in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, as of the last 90 days. So understanding the principles of U.S. business and now international business that's my core focus. Is like, how do I take what I did in the States and created this podcast and created this epicenter of what Boss Uncaged is? What does that look like on an international platform? And as you dive into international, you will learn that national, local, international, it's like speaking 3 separate languages. Like, there's no blurred lines between them. They're completely different. So how do I uniform and make this a unity between them? And that's where I'm at right now. So ideally, someone could be in the States and they could be in Arizona, and they could be in that one local subsection of the country, and then they want to go national. Then once they hit national, then they want to go global. What are the steps to get there? What are the steps to take? And it doesn't matter what they're selling or promoting. It's understanding the more of the mindset to achieve those goals than anything else.
Well, this is so fascinating to talk about, going from, what we're used to in the United States, then going international. And that's sort of the nut you are cracking right now and figuring out and learning. And we've had some, private conversations about what that has been like for you. If we were to back up a little bit, because the idea of going international, that's a super sexy idea, right? Like, everybody wants to do that. Like, the world is your oyster kind of thing. Let's get out of the United States and expand and do all this kind of stuff. One of the things that I think is really fascinating about your story is, and I'm just going to say it really bluntly, you don't seem to care how people perceive you.
No. I mean,
is that like a really unkind way to say it?
No, I mean, like, literally, I grew up in New York with a state of mind giving 0 Fs, as we would say, right? So, again, you could have people that love you, you have people that hate you. Keeping in mind of human nature, going into psychology of human nature, everything is bipolar. Okay. If I like the Giants, someone's going to like the Jets, right? If I like the Mets, someone's going to like the Yankees. There's always going to be a divide and conquer, unfortunately. So if you are everyone's best friend, then you're doing yourself a complete disservice, and it's completely impossible. Look at all the famous people in the world. Look at Michael Jackson. Half the world loved him. Everyone knew who he was, but other half of the world label them all these different negative things. So the reality is that once you get to the point where you're focusing on what you're doing, who you are and who you are affecting in a positive way, that becomes your focus, and all the other noise just drowns out.
Why do entrepreneurs get stuck at that stage? I mean, this is sort of what you do. You help people break in to who they are, build a brand around it, all that kind of stuff. Why do we get so stuck in the who's going to see this and what's the perception and what if I screw it up? Like, why? Why does it happen?
I think by default, most people are perfectionists. Most people are saying that they want this to be perfect before they go live. And like I told you, when I gave you the link to our website, I was like, our website's under construction. It's probably going to be under construction for like the next 9 months because we're building so many different elements and so many. I mean, we're up to like 150 pages out of 1,100 pages that we need to build. So the reality is there's going to be some holes. But if I waited till all 1,100 pages were built, I may have another stroke in that time frame. There's no telling, right? Something could completely happen. Anything could happen, and the website would never be launched. So it was like, okay, launch it with the bare minimum, right? The viable product, the basic, simple thing to get off the ground, and then you layer up. You layer. It's no different than if you look at it as a cake. You're not going to come out and build a 12-layer cake as your first cake. You're going to build a regular pound cake. And then after that, you may do a pound cake with icing. Then you can do a pound cake with icing and something else. You layer and you keep building as you grow.
And how do you help an entrepreneur keep confidence when they're small, when they are doing the 1-layer cake and they want to do the 12-layer international cake, right? How do you help an entrepreneur center themselves on the 1 layer?
One of the techniques I like to use is this mind mapping. Right. So I think if you understand what mind mapping is, essentially it's kind of going back to circles, overlapping circles. I can say baseball, and then someone's going to say bat. Then someone else is going to say field. Then someone else is going to say pitcher. Right. All these different words you write down. And then you keep doing that for a period of time. And then what you do is you look at it from a top level view. Like, what am I really looking at? What is calling out to me? Right. So, for example, if I was talking to someone that's doing marketing for some baseball academy, for example, and I'm like, okay, I want you to circle the top 3 to 5 things that make relative sense to you and your avatar. Then dial in on that, kind of going back into that keyword. You want to focus on that, and then you want to build your brand, everything, your messaging based upon those items, those things that you're trying to achieve. Because if you're trying to do it on baseball in a whole, baseball could be anything. It could be little league, it could be big league, it could be minor league. There's so many different variables, and you have to stay, again, baseball is major, but you can take a small slice of baseball and then you can grow into it. So if you're starting off building bats, then after bats, the only thing that would make sense would be probably gloves or probably baseballs or probably helmets, right? So again, there's more than one SKU per se, or more than one service.
Yeah.
You have to start with one and then go from there. But by mind mapping, you already have your roadmap. You already have your international vision. Now you have to actually walk the walk and execute what you're seeing on paper.
So as you've worked with clients, as you've done this kind of mind mapping and what stands out to you and how can we build a brand around that and start with one, what are some of the pitfalls that you see in that creation process as they're trying to map their vision? Is it on the big end? Is it on the narrowing end? What's the experience you've had?
It goes back to being bipolar. Some people, they overextend themselves and they have these grandiose visions of empires, much like I have or I've done before, but they don't have the discipline to execute it, right? Or you may have someone that kind of shortchanges themselves. They may think about something on a really, really small scale. And I'm like, well, how much money do you want to make? I'll start with that. Like, where do you want to be with the revenue? Like, what's your goal? Like, is this a legacy thing? Is this something you're doing for fun? That kind of then sets the pace. If they say that they want to build a business that they can pass down to their kids, well, what is that going to look like? Do you want to pass an established business? Do you want to pass the selling of the business and the revenue? All of these are different diversities that we have to kind of dial in before we actually then create that brand, because every brand has different visual representations and they also have different meanings and sub meanings that all go into play for your target audience.
Okay. I want to dig with you for a minute. I love this idea of these specific questions. Are you building a legacy? Are you wanting to sell this thing in 25 years, in 5 years? And like that, those are going to be businesses that are all different, right? What happens when an entrepreneur runs into, well, I think that I'm supposed to want this, right? Like, I think for example, I think I'm supposed to want to pass on this company so that my kids can have jobs and they can run it and it can be forever, 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 instead of, look, I just want to cash out. I just want to cash out because, but I shouldn't want to just want the money of it or something like that. Like what that word, like supposed to, how does that play in what you do?
I mean, the first thing when I hear that is why are they doing that? Is it more so something that was driven from their predecessors before them? Their parents have told them that they should have been a doctor. They should have been a doctor their entire life, right?
Ooh.
Or is it really something that they've always had this more so a character or a vision of who they want to be, but they never became that person. So they're always reaching for it, but they're never doing the actions to get there. So you kind of have to figure out which one is it, right? So if it's going to be the actions, then you're going to have to apply some kind of principles to get those actions done, whether it's you doing it or you're hiring the right people to get it done for you if you don't think that you can do it or do it well at that point, but you have the vision. And that kind of goes back into being a boss. Yes, as a boss, you can know how to do all the things, but in reality, you're not going to be able to do all the things if you're going to create a business.
I am just so intrigued by this concept. You said something about why do they feel that way, that they have to go in a certain direction? What has been your personal experience in how you were raised of what you were supposed to do?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of going back to what you said before, not really caring what anyone thought about me. So the vision of my parents, I'm completely different. Like there's there's elements of my parents in me, but neither one of them was really entrepreneurs. My dad kind of dibbled it in a little bit, never really had solid success. My mom was kind of like always a worker bee, always making ends meet. And I was just like, I'm like, what you did for you was great. What you did for you was great. I appreciate you getting me to where I'm at, but I'm never going to walk in your footsteps. I'm never going to walk down those lines. I'm going to then make my own footprints. And ideally, if my kids decide to follow my footprints, great. If they don't, by recording this kind of content. And I always tell people, like, if you have an opportunity to talk on a stage, you have an opportunity to sit down on a console, you have an opportunity to do a podcast. If you're scared, then put your diaper on, be okay with being that scared and that frustrated, but you want to make sure that content is recorded, because if you look at society, the people that really live forever are actors. I can go on the internet right now and find a movie from the 30s. Someone has died like 20 years ago, but their great-great-grandkids are still watching and enjoying them till this day because, again, for reruns and for showing black and white films. So for us as regular people, we can do the same thing with the environment of YouTube and podcasting. So then our great-great-grandkids, like, unfortunately for me, I'm like, I wonder what my great-granddad was like. I wonder what his voice sounded like. I wonder if we thought of like all these different questions that we have now in our generation.
Yeah.
We're solving that problem. Like the next generation after next is not going to have that issue because now they'll be able to go online and see who SA was, see what his thoughts were, see his visions, see little elements of me in them, and then take that and be inspired to become whoever they're planning on being.
My mind is blown. I have never envisioned YouTube or a podcast as a legacy driver. Like serious, I rarely become speechless, right? That changes things. That changes this conversation, even right now, knowing we are building a legacy. And I love how you said, yeah, and you're going to be scared to do it. And we do it anyway, right?
You have to. You have to. I want people to think about it from the standpoint of, okay, some people, they may have been raised in a single household. And because of that, they may not have known that other parents' parents or the other parents' parents, right? So by default, you're kind of lost in figuring out who you are over a period of time because you don't have those other elements to bounce ideas off of or to watch and be like, oh my God, I'm like my great-grandfather. Oh my God, I'm like my great-grandmother. You're never going to know because you're never going to have that experience with them. Versus what we're doing, it's there. Even my mannerisms, my language, the way I'm moving, I could totally see like a great-great-grandkid down the road, probably being a little live wired, give him some Ritalin, whatever it is, right? But then show him this video and he'd be like, oh, that's where I get it from.
Oh, and just imagine that moment. He's like, I move my hands like my great-great-grandpa, or I have his eyes, or I have his, that is so powerful to me. And if you were to kind of, you go back in time and say, okay, if I had not fought in some ways mentally against what I was supposed to be, right? If I hadn't fought that good fight, if I hadn't had the stroke, if I hadn't decided to do things that were scary, what would your life be?
kind of going back to like what my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies is kind of going into Matrix. I would have been a drone, a pawn amongst the masses of people following the pheromone trail from day to day. Like that's the direction I was going in, and thinking about me almost dying. That's like the legacy of society, at least in the Western culture, right? We kind of get up, we go to work, and then we hopefully we have some time afterwards, and we do something, and we just keep working and working and working. We're chasing after the almighty dollar, and then unfortunately, we may get it, but then we may die after getting it, right? Or we finally do get it, and then our health is completely gone, right? So it kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of sit back and be like, if I was Neo, and this is all a simulation, kind of going into the power of positive thinking, what should I be doing and why should I be doing it? And then I need to start doing it no matter what. And the more you stay down that path of no matter what, and you stay positive no matter what happens, by default, the simulation, the world, Allah, God, whatever you want to call it, will kind of hand deliver it to you if you seize the moment to realize that you are making your own reality.
The Matrix. The Matrix. So in that same vein, you said if I had not really fought against the norm, I would have ended up a drone, and I would have fought for the dollar, and I would have hoped to have had time off after school and after work and raising kids and all these things. What has been your experience in honoring what your parents did for you and in raising you and the foundations that they gave you, and also proclaiming, I am going a different way?
I think for me, it's just kind of like, going back to the earlier days of being a jack of all trades and kind of being a master of none and all these different things. It's kind of like understanding that I love information. I love content. Like that's what I love. So I am not fearful for that. I'm ready to dive into it versus my mom. Anything new, anything out the ordinary, anything that's not dial up, she's like, the world is ending. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my dad, unfortunately in his older days, he has like onset Alzheimer's right now. So like his mind is not what it used to be at all. So kind of seeing him fade a little bit is just kind of like, well, I'm not like either one of them right now. Like, and I haven't been like either one of them. So I feel like I am the pinnacle point in that branch of this tree to establish something new. So if this was an apple tree, I'm now making it into a mango tree, right? So I'm changing the DNA by branching off and following a different path.
And have you gotten kickback for that?
My parents, more so from my mom, she's definitely proud. I think she's proud in the sense that I came from her and the things that I'm doing, she can't comprehend. And I think for any parent, like that's what you want. Like I would love for the day comes to when one of my kids come and they tell me something and they're not asking me something, they're actually informing. And again, kids do it all the time. But when it gets to the point where you're asking your kids for advice, that's when you're like, yes. Finally. Like now, like not like I can relax. I'm still their parent.
Sure.
But they have lived a life. They've done some stuff. They've done things outside of what we've done for them to the point to where their branch is a little bit different. Their end product is a little bit different. And now they have more solutions and resolutions that we didn't even step into or even can comprehend until they told us about it.
And this is so fantastic because I think about your mom. You're saying your mom was like hustling to make ends meet through a variety of ways, right? And so she had that desire and that drive, and she passed that to you, right? She passed that to you that you are like, I am going to find a variety of ways to figure out how I'm going to connect A to B and A to C and A to Z. And I love that she can see part of herself in you and say, he's doing stuff I would never do, that I would never have the courage to do. And one thing I really want to lean into that I wrote down when you were talking is you were talking about how you just loved information, right? And that you found that was different than how you were raised. You just really leaned into the new and the nitty gritty. And have you found that to be sort of a key element as you do mind mapping and branding and all these things, that you help entrepreneurs really discover what they want and what they actually love? Get rid of all the rest of the garbage because there's a million businesses you can grow. But what is that process like? Like, what do you desire?
Yeah, kind of going back to my earlier days in business, and literally most of my clients used to tell me like my gift, and I wasn't listening. They kept telling my gift was like kind of going back into the matrix. Like I am completely plugged into technology. Like I communicate with it. It talks to me. We speak the same language. And if I can't speak your language, it's another piece of technology that could translate for me. So ideally, that's who I am. And before I wanted to design, I wanted to develop, but I was not really leaning into what my gift really is. So now that's what I do. Like everything that I'm doing right now, it's always a solution for it. Okay. So if you want automation, there's a solution for it. If you want to figure out how to do podcasts, there's a solution for it. It doesn't have to be software. A lot of it could be principles. It could be systems. But being that I'm so in tune with technology, it makes it easy. And because I have such a diverse background, I can take that and then convert it for a dentist. Take that and convert it for someone that's trying to sell a car. Take that and then convert it to someone that's just trying to raise an IT firm. Because again, for me, the disciplines are all uniquely different, but the principles are always going to be the same.
And this is why you and I have that same friend, is because he believes that exact same thing, is that the actual client, what they're in, doesn't matter, right? It's the principles that guide it in
100%.
their lives. So I want to just dive even further into that with you, where what are your guiding principles? I know you love tech. I know you love your family. I know you married well, like all the things. What are some of your guiding principles?
So if you're talking about as far as like business and technology, I'm always, and this is like a never ending story, right? It's always trying to figure out how to make multiple things communicate with each other. So I'm really big into supporting new startups, new companies that say, hey, I have a new product. And there's a risk with that, right? That product may or may not be here 6 months from now. And again, if you're not familiar with AppSumo, I would definitely recommend anyone listening go to appsumo.com. They're a great platform that give you lifetime deals, right? And these lifetime deals are opportunities for you to get things like MailChimp, for example, which kind of started on AppSumo at one time. So imagine having a lifetime deal, and now MailChimp is an empire that it is, but you're not paying anything monthly for it.
Wow.
Right? So in that space, what I'm always trying to do is plugging different things together, kind of going back to that enterprise state of mind. Okay, well, I have a podcast. What can I do to automate this podcast? Well, I have a video. What can I do to automate those videos? Well, I have a spreadsheet. What can I do to use the content in the spreadsheet? And so it's literally just kind of going back and forth with these different elements, trying to figure out how, when, why, what. It kind of just goes back to the W's, right? And once you figure those things out, then you plug in the solution for it.
And I'm just blown away at all your gifts and talents, right? And how all of these connect in the fact that you're like, I have this technology. I love to be behind the scenes and connect things and make things easier. And then you've got this whole other part of you that is like keynote, right? Like I'm going to be a keynote speaker. I'm going to write books. You've written a children's book, like all of these different things. Like how are you all things?
Well, I think everyone is all the things. I think most people, they either think about the road less traveled, right? Let's go into Frost himself, right? So if you're thinking about the road less traveled, it's always kind of like, I'm not sure what's on this road. I'm not sure what's on the other end. And for me, the road is not even in the equation. It's the destination. So no matter what it takes to get to that destination, whether I'm riding a bike, a boat, a plane, a car, if I'm crawling on my hands, I look at these as different disciplines. I'm just switching between, okay, there's water. Now I have to swim. Oh, there's land. It's kind of rocky. I'm going to do mountain biking, right? So I'm switching the areas based upon the hurdles that I need to overcome.
Incredible. And because you work, I'm going to kind of bring this all together, because you work a lot in the world of branding, whether that's self-branding, personal branding, company branding, right? All of this stuff. As you go into a world of branding, I think one of the issues people have when they enter the world of branding is either branding is very philosophical and they don't know how to put it into action, right? Like, here's our company motto, but I don't know how to put it into action or visually, or the absolute opposite, where they're like, I have my fonts, I have my colors, I have my logo, and they have no idea where that can take them. Would you agree with that? That like,
I think there's even more sectors than that, right? I mean, it's to your point. Yes, some people come in with colors and I want it to look like this. And it's like, you want pink, purple, and green, and you're selling what for men again? I don't think that's going to really fly with that demographic. You know what I'm saying? So it's more so taking yourself out that element And I think the most people, they always forget, unless you're selling to yourself, you're not selling to you. So you have to figure out what that person wants, right? And if you're not going to sell to them, then you do the thing that I've done is kind of build a brand with the tentacles to demonstrate what we do at all factors. So if you want to talk about books, we have books. You want to talk about podcasts, we have podcasts. You want to talk about a radio station, we have an internet radio station. We have these different elements that we've all built. So when you come to us, we're like, okay, do you want a client's example? Do you want our example? And we can tell you how we're using and how we built it.
Oh,
So it's more of a personal approach.
I love the personal approach. So that seems more on the element of how can we build the philosophy and then reverse engineer it across all the platforms and what we're offering. So when you built Boss Uncaged, what is the brand? What are the words? What's the philosophy? How was that built?
So kind of going back into the word boss, like literally when I looked at the word boss, for me, it was more so I wanted something that was a balance, not just balance as far as 4 letters, but balance visually, the weight of the letters, right? So kind of going into like my design side, turning on now I'm riding the bike, right? So when I'm looking at Boss Uncaged, I look at the curves, the O, right? And the O, essentially, I was like, okay, the O is the one thing in that entire logo that I'm then going to put my iconography and just get rid of the O. And then the S and the B, well, if you look at the S and the B on the right side, there's a lot of symmetry with the curve. They're almost like 8s, right? So then I'm looking at that. Is that balance? Does that fit in the block? And then that's what Uncaged is, just more so a supporting line. It's more so like the foundation of becoming a boss. So if you're thinking about it from the standpoint, okay, I'm an employee and I want to break out of corporate America. I want to break out the cage. Corporate America becomes your foundation, and then you grow into becoming the boss. Hence why boss is on top and it's bigger. It could have easily had been Uncaged Boss. I own both domains, but I had to figure out which wordplay and for what reason which should come first.
And this really brings into the scene those who do lean largely into the graphic side and the font and the sizing and the color. And I roll my eyes, not in a like roll my eyes away, but what I mean is what's so neat is hearing you talk about the design and hearing how the letters were spaced and how they were chosen and how they line up with the curves. I can hear your conviction about the brand. I can hear what is foundational for you. I can hear and understand that you are here to promote balance in life, not just corporate, wake up, go to work, pray you have an hour with the family at night, right? And I think
100%.
you exude that, whether we've talked in Facebook Messenger or whether we've had a Zoom meeting, that your brand is, I mean, I say it's you, but I see you exude the goals of those brands. And I would say that is rare. With all the people I've talked to, that's rare.
But I think I had to die to come to that point, right? I mean, I literally had to look and see the white halo and be like, what can I do that's me, that's not necessarily uniquely different than anyone else can do, but it's me. So if you meet me in person and if you meet me on a podcast, you're meeting the same exact individual. There is no difference between. So for me, it makes it so much easier than to pretend to go to corporate America or pretend to be something and then come home and you want to strip down and peel off all that nastiness that you had to fake the entire day. Nobody in corporate America likes that, right? I mean, I would say majority of people, they come home and they're a different individual with their family than they are at the office. Me, I'm the same. That's just like going back to like talking about like Damon. That's why I think me and Damon had such a magnetic attraction, because who we are in business is who we are in the real world. It's not like you're going to see like a famous person and then when you meet them, they're completely different than what you envisioned them to be. We're exactly the same. And it makes it to where transitionally, we don't have to focus on that general lie. And again, the deeper you get into a lie, it becomes harder and harder for you to memorize, harder and harder for you to recap. Why go through that level of stress and have a stroke when you could just be your genuine self? And again, in the world of divide and conquer, the people that'll love you will be attracted to you. And the people that'll hate you, they'll have no problem bashing you no matter what you do. So the reality is you forget about them and you focus on your tribe. You focus on your people and you give them what you are and just be your original self at all times.
And this can solve so many problems for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow and scale. I think about those who are, I'm trying to build my network. It's really hard for me to build my network or whatever. Whereas you and I, we met through Damon. Now we've like said his name out loud, but it was so easy for us to say yes to each other because there was a common expectation of quality and value and of integrity because of a common acquaintance, right? And that's something that you can't fake, right?
Can't.
And so it's so much, and I don't want to be like slimy and bro markety, but it is so much faster and easier to grow a network and grow a business when it's based upon your core, your values of who you are. Right. And the fact that you don't believe in the whole, in my family, we call it the unzipping, right? Like, okay, I'm at work. And so I zip up this way and then I come home and I unzip. Right. And that you don't believe that that is the way to live.
You can't. And again, I've been down that road before, and it's a hard pill. It's like trying to swallow a horse pill without any fluid around it. It's like you're choking on it. You're gasping for air just to maintain that. And some people get really good at it. They get so good at it that it becomes them. It starts to define them. And then they start to take that crap home, and their relationships become like they're in corporate America with their family and their friends. And then they become like the that nobody really wants to be around because you're kind of like, I don't really know what this person's thinking. I really can't trust them. And then you just kind of have to back off. But in reality, they become that. They were not born that way. They were not raised that way. But unfortunately, the system of corporate America has transformed them into monsters, pretty much.
The fight against corporate America.
Which, I mean, it's not necessarily a fight. I would think, all entrepreneurs are searching to become an enterprise to a certain point. All entrepreneurs start with small business, and then that small business then potentially could become a massive business. And once it becomes a massive business, you kind of, if you know Apple's story, you can get fired from your own company. So once you get to that level, that's when it gets corporate. But again, that's when you get billion, trillion-dollar opportunities as well. Right.
Well, just to bring all of this together and to wrap up this incredible conversation. And now that I look at your brand again, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's even more here. There's even more here that I want to engage with and understand and learn, and the courage that you've had to build what you have built. What would, the title of the podcast is Unreasonable Autonomy, right? That we are building a life that many would say is unreasonable. And what is a portion of your life that many would tag as unreasonable that you are really proud of?
I think literally in the last 24 hours, it was a friend of mine that was a coworker, and I said happy birthday to him, and he was just like, if anyone else that I know that no matter what you do, wherever you end up, you're going to fall on your feet and you're going to figure it out, because again, you just jump in head first, no matter what it is. And I've heard that about myself from multiple different circles, from multiple different people. And I'm starting to realize, like, before I knew it, it was an inspiration to other people, because some people, they're like, I could not do it. I could not risk it. I could not take that. It's too scary. And for me, I do it, and I do it without remorse. I'll jump head first and just know that there's a parachute on the way down that I'm just going to grab a hold to. And I think that kind of goes back into being facetiously saying, we're in a simulation. What's the worst that could happen? I wake up.
And I'm actually quite moved by that, in the element of, do you know that there's a parachute because of the Matrix? Do you know that there's a parachute because of God or faith? Or what is that core that says, what's the worst that can happen?
For me, I think when I go back into it, I've always been an adrenaline junkie, right? I've always been a risk taker. But to be honest with you, in that moment, when, you kind of say, I seen the lights at the end of the tunnel. And for me, that light was kind of a joke, because it was the actual medical lights above me. And the beeping sound was the actual, the monitors. And I was just like, okay, I remember that, but I don't remember anything else. I don't remember this out of body experience. I don't remember all these things that supposedly happens. There was nothing. It was absolute nothing. So with that being present at that moment when death was there, I'm like, why would I contain myself put myself in a box and be caged if this is the only life that I'm going to have to live. Like, why? Why? Like, I may live to 60, I may live to 80. With technology, I may live to 120, but I may only live once. Maybe I may be reincarnated. All these things are all possibilities that no one has the core answer to. So why would you hold back not knowing if you have another opportunity or not?
Why would you hold back? Why would you hold back? And I don't want to be disrespectful of what happened to you with your stroke. So let me help it come full circle. Does every entrepreneur need a stroke moment? Have you found that that's the commonality? Yeah. Yes.
Most of them do. Yeah. Most of them, I mean, literally, most of them are hit with something. It's a car accident, someone dying, cancer. Like, there's always that moment, kind of going back into what we've been talking about systematically, like kind of the Matrix. It's like an awakening moment. Like, once you wake up, you're never going to go back to sleep. And so for me, like who I am right now, I am so grateful, not only for my wife encouraging me, but that stroke had to happen. It happened early enough too, which is a beautiful blessing in disguise. Yeah, I was in my 30s. Like, now I still have time to do what I was designed and developed to do in the first place. I was going down the wrong path.
Wow. And such gratitude for such a life altering and threatening experience is so impressive. So impressive. And a couple of my takeaways from sitting with you today, SA, is going to be centered around, like, why would you not go after it? If this is your life, why would you not go after it? My other takeaway from what you're saying is express gratitude for how you were raised and take your path. Build your branch, build your side of the tree. And last, to really, really lean into the desires that you have, because that's giving you hints of where you can go and what is possible. And I think that those are really life-altering principles that can certainly change my audience's life, my life as well, but hopefully tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands more, as you continue to spread your message. I am so grateful for your time today, for your honesty, for you being the real deal, whether it was online at the live event that we met at, right? Or whether it's just here in a very personal conversation. I am so grateful for your courage to get that message out to help entrepreneurs get uncaged. Thank you again so much for being here.
Pleasure was mine. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.